Welcome to the Roost News, the place for all things volunteer. I am Lillian Lee, co-lead for the Roost News, and I welcome Michelle Becote-Jackson, Vice President, Volunteerism and Services, and State Community Volunteer Engagement. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, Lillian, and good day to all of our wonderful volunteers. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your many duties to be a part of the podcast. Since your beginning, which I believe was around November of 2021, we've had several new staff members, several new volunteers. So please share a little bit about you by responding to why work for AARP.
Oh my goodness, and I have just a little bit of time, right? Um, First of all, it is an honor to work with this incredible organization that focuses on the betterment of life for the 50 plus community. And no one does it better, right? It's not only an organization that's focused on social impact mission for the 50 plus, but it arms itself with amazing people, that's staff and volunteers like you and all of our esteemed listeners here, to actually advance that mission critical work of helping us to choose how we live as we age. So there's nothing better than to be able to work for an organization that is social mission based, dedicated to a population so deserving like us, 50 plus, and fuels it with amazing talent and impassioned people like our incredible staff and volunteers. So very easy decision to make 3+ years ago, and honored to still be here today doing this great work with all of you.
Wonderful. And we're so happy that you are still here. Let's jump into the topics, several topics for today to hear about. But we're going to start with 2024. As we look back at 2024, and I think about the many activities that I was involved in for OVE, the Office of Volunteer Engagement, what do you feel were your top three accomplishments in 2024?
Great, thank you. And there are so many, so it's going to take me a minute to
Yes,
distill down to just a couple. And you're going to say my accomplishments, but I'm going to say our accomplishments
yes,
because they could
yes.
only be done by the amazing support of all of you. So first, we did experience growth.
Mhm.
We are starting to see volunteer numbers move to those pre-COVID levels. We are really closing in on that 60,000 high watermark that we had before COVID, and actually achieved over 50,000 volunteers
Wow,
last
that's
year
wonderful.
and over 5% net growth over the prior year. So it's great to see that we are still having a wonderful upward trend in our volunteer growth. And thank you so much for those of you who joined us last year, and for all of you who stayed with us last year. We also saw a wonderful increase in the percentage of volunteer-led events in our states.
Okay.
We normally shoot for roughly about 50%, and we actually realized 56%. So more than half of our state-led events were led by you, our amazing volunteers. And then an interesting accomplishment we did that I think is more noteworthy of the incredible brain power, trust power that we have because of our volunteers. We were tapped by major tech companies to sit and learn about how they could better create products and design products for the 50 plus community. So we got an opportunity to do some amazing work with both Google and Samsung to
Mm.
create easier for us as we advance. And in fact, we pitched 4 proposals to Google, and they are still in review with Google leadership. So, how wonderful it is to have this opportunity. One of the great learnings that came out of that is from Google leadership was that they said they got such an education by working with you, our amazing volunteers, that they're seeing opportunities for us to repeat these opportunities again. But the bigger impact is us being able to weigh in on tools and resources and supports for us as we age and help form and change the thinking, the culture, and the production of organizations serve not only their typical, 18 to 30 year olds, but no, there's a whole world of us out there that are ready, able, and excited and need the technology to continue to live comfortably as we age. So it was a wonderful, wonderful year. And again, thank all of you for helping us to achieve those and so many more goals.
Yes, yes. And that's great to hear that something in 2024 will transition over to the 2025 year. And we're in 2025 now. So one thing that I had heard about for 2025 was a term, let's see, I want to get it right, increased volunteer leadership as a
Mhm.
focus. And how does that relate to volunteer leadership and volunteer engagement? Are they one and the same, or is that a topic actually for 2025?
It is most definitely a topic. And again, it is one that is fueled and encouraged by what we see in all of you as incredible leaders. Building volunteer leadership is the ultimate capacity builder for our states and, quite frankly, for all of our volunteer programs. Having that sage, skilled, savvy volunteer who goes through many of these, starting out in many cases with entry level interest of volunteerism and bringing their not only their prior life experiences, but their passions to wanting to do
Yes.
more
Hmm.
makes it only better and greater and easier for us to do more in our communities. In fact, it's the only way that we can do more in our communities because there will never be enough staff to really permeate community, quite frankly,
Hmm.
even down to neighborhoods
Mm.
without involving volunteers. And what we've learned is by actually supporting volunteers and the staff partners through growing and developing volunteer leaders, we get to learn and do more with community in an authentic way. While our staffs are quite familiar with the community, there's no one like having your neighbor, your long-standing present community member lead you through the many learnings and opportunities through AARP. Volunteer leadership helps us to, again, in addition to building capacity, also builds deepening connections with community in an authentic way. So as we want to do more great work in this space, we know we need to do more of that. We need to have more great leaders step up and step out in these spaces. And so we're focusing on that because it's, again, a great way for us to do more with the wonderful brain power and support of all of you. So that's why it's an area of focus for us this year and, quite frankly, every year.
Right. Anything else for 2025 that you want to share at this time? I know you're probably working through a lot of programs, activities for 2025, but anything else you wish to share for volunteers and staff?
Well, you hit the first one, and that's helping all programs, all states, all regions build their capacity through volunteerism and growing volunteer leadership.
Hmm.
We're also working, or will always continue to work on enhancing and improving the volunteer experience. And that includes everything from making it easier to volunteer with us, make sure full involved and proactively recognizing all the incredible work that you do, and also making sure that to support you in your growth development and, quite frankly, in your retention with us. So that's more on-demand trainings, that's more opportunities for you all to convene together and learn from each other, i.e. Exhibit A, the Roost News here, and having these great resources so volunteers can learn with and from other volunteers. So we're always focused on what we can do to ensure and increase volunteer engagement. Um, as always, thirdly, we're focused on improving systems. And yes, that includes the portal. We are working feverishly,
Yes.
again, to make sure that the portal is the resource that supports the volunteers in a meaningful way. And I mean meaningful to all of you way, not just for us. So we are working on ways to improve the volunteer experience. We are working on ways to make sure that we put more materials as resources and assets within the portal. So, and we're even looking toward ways to make it more user friendly in a mobile setting. So stay tuned to see some great things happening with the portal. And lastly,
Hmm.
something that you do masterfully, Lillian, and we see happens around the bend, and that's telling your incredible story. We want to make sure that in all of the stories told, that yours gets heard, lifted, and amplified the loudest because you are the lifeblood to our organization. And so by telling your story, we by default tell the incredible story of AARP's work. So we're doing lots of work and going really deep and making sure that we uplift your incredible, rich, and amazing stories in multiple forums and venues. So stay tuned for that as well. So lots of great work in store for
Yes,
2025.
yes. Looking forward to it, as well as I'm sure all the volunteers are as well. Now let's transition a little bit to another topic that's
Mhm,
been out there in the AARP land with the policy AI, artificial intelligence.
mhm.
How do you see AI having a role with the Office of Volunteer Engagement?
Great. Thank you for that question. Yes. It's so funny. Just a couple years ago, AI was this kind of eerie thinking, like, oh my goodness, what is the takeover of the machines, right? Is
Right.
what about to happen? But what we've learned in these most recent years is that AI is your friend, right?
Mhm.
It is a powerful tool to help us all, no matter what role or what capacity you in, better garner information and information most relevant to the things we need to do. The
Yes.
way that we are using it within Office of Volunteer Engagement is really as that ultimate support provider, right? In terms of ways for us to quickly distill lots of information, right? For instance, if we want to, we get lots of meetings from lots of different notes from lots of different state meetings and program meetings, and we literally would put it in AI and say, tell us the top 5 learnings that we would want to make sure that we share out with our volunteers. That's just one example.
Yes. Mhm.
And we give it the information and it gives us back this incredible summary. Now, what's important to note that lots of times what you get back, it's not going to be 100% there, but it's 80% there and got you there in
Yes.
far less time than it would have taken us if we invested time in doing it the long-handed way.
Mhm.
And it also allows us to now free up that time to do some of the other more strategic and innovative things we'd like to do versus having to spend the time creating documents. So we use it a lot in that capacity. Help us create agendas, help us come up with descriptors for meetings and unique ways to entitle meetings or entitle trainings. We even help us with the development of training. So
Mhm.
it is an ultimate support system for us, allowing us to lean on it for many of our administrative and language related skill task, but allowing us to then take it and edit it and put it in a voice and share it with all of you, freeing up time for us to do a little bit more. So, but there are tremendous amounts of uses, right? Obviously, there's a lot of use around AI and personalization, which is the way AARP does it. That's what the app does. It knows what I want to see when
Mhm.
I get on
Yes.
it based on what I did the 10 times before when I was on it, which is both wonderful, efficient for me, and time saving, right, for everyone else. And again, that wonderful ability to generate information based on our request. So it's a wonderful tool. One thing I always tell everybody that I learned about AI is when you ask it a question,
Mhm.
give it a persona, right? Like
Yes.
typically for Google, we just say, restaurants in the DC area, right? For AI, you want to talk a little bit more like you'd be asking a friend and say, hey, I'm looking for a Thai restaurant in the Northwest region that's got 4 stars or more, right? So the more detail you give it, the best and more fulsome your response will be. So when you use it, be as specific as possible, and you will find that it's a wonderful tool and asset for you.
Great, great. But when you're looking at volunteers and staff of AARP
Mhm.
using AI, any specific parameters that you would like to share?
Yes, we always say the way that AI gets as smart as it is because it's fed information from its users,
Mhm.
right? So what we say is please don't put any proprietary AARP information out there. right?
Yes,
None of the detailed information that should not be for public consumption. Because once it's out there, it becomes
there.
a part of the AI machine and anyone can have access to it. So please refrain from doing that. That's our biggest no-no in that space. Otherwise, anything for public consumption is safe. And we just ask that we again be mindful of if there's any question, right, please talk to your staff partner who will connect with our AI work group to confirm whether or not. But otherwise, just if you stand clear from proprietary information, use it for those top line general information, resource supports, you should be fine.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good information to share with our volunteers because any support that can be used is great, but knowing that there are a few parameters when it comes to using it on behalf of AARP, great. But we're going to transition to another topic, which is looking at the federal and state governments. We know that we're nonpartisan, but we want those two entities to be bipartisan when they're supporting AARP areas such as caregiving, Social Security, the scams that are going around. What do you view or how do you see the Office of Volunteer Engagement working to support those efforts, the political efforts? Because I know we do have the do-it-yourself workshops, DIY, that can encompass some of that, but how do you see the Office of Volunteer Engagement supporting the volunteers and staff when it comes to getting involved with the nonpartisan issues?
Thank you for that great question. And I know Nancy covered a great
Yes.
deal of that landscape with you. But you kind of answered the question for me when you referenced our do it yourself workshops and our speakers bureaus. What OVE does is make sure you have the resources, the materials,
Yes.
because in being prepared in these spaces, knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
So we want to make sure that you have all access to all of the turnkey program kits that you need, that they're at your fingertips in the portal, that if you need help with facilitation skills as you deliver them, because you do have to walk a line very specifically when you live and operate from a nonpartisan space,
Yes.
we are there to wrap all of those resources around you so that when you are tackling these very, very important strategic initiatives on federal, state, and local level, quite
Yes.
frankly, you feel confident because you are armed with the best and most accurate and up to date materials. And so we work with our partners and Turnkey and the Office of Community Engagement to make sure you have those updates as well. If you notice, if you go into the portal, you will see probably more frequent updates than ever on changes and updates that we're receiving from our rapid response team on what's happening in this space. And so we put it right at your fingertips. So you too can have that when you go out into community. So we see that as our cue and our key to make sure that you're prepared for all of the settings that you'll be in delivering advocacy.
Wonderful. Yes, and as a portal champion, thank you for sharing the importance of volunteers going to the portal and going to the do-it-yourself workshop tabs in the library section of the
Absolutely.
portal. So this is important, volunteers. Check it out. We have a lot to do as it relates to sharing the great news and getting the volunteers and even some of the non-volunteers acclimated to what's going on as it relates to the political arena. Keep it
Absolutely. And if I could add
on.
one more thing, please,
Sure.
the learning is bi-directional. We want to make sure you have the resources. We want to make sure you feel comfortable in the spaces with
Yes.
delivery,
Mhm.
but you're also in community. So we know you hear things and have questions.
Okay.
Please reach back out to our volunteer helpline. If you hear things that are concerning, you're not as comfortable with it, of course, as always, your first line of defense is to go to your staff partner, but reach out to our volunteer helpline and make sure that we will get that information, we'll research it on your behalf and make sure the information gets back out to you. And if relevant, we'll update the portal accordingly too. So please feel free to share back with us as well.
Wonderful. Well, Michelle, you have shared a lot in a short amount of time, very relevant information for our audiences. As we begin to bring closure to the podcast, is there anything else that you would like to share coming from the Office of Volunteer Engagement?
Um, None other than thank you. Thank you all so very, very much. I normally do that at the beginning of every call. I can't believe
Mhm.
I didn't do it at the beginning, but I certainly will not disconnect without thanking you for all that you do. For each and every one of us to not simply advance our mission, but to connect with community in such a meaningful way. You are the connection of trust that makes us the powerful engine that we are, and more importantly, the informed millions and millions of 50 plus people are in gratitude to you for your support of all that you do in education and advocacy. So, thank you for all that you do each and every day with and for us. We cannot thank you enough, and we just want you to make sure that you know that the Office of Volunteer Engagement is here for you. So, if there's in any way, shape, or form that we can support you, as I said, always reach out to our volunteer helpline, and that's either through calling our 800 number or just emailing us at AARP. Volunteer at AARP.org. Again, that's volunteer at AARP.org. We're happy to help you and to continue to support you in any way. So thank you again, Lillian, for this amazing opportunity.
Yes. Well, I have one more little note
Oh,
or
okay.
one more conversation, and it's sort of separate per se from
Mhm,
the OVE, but yet it's a part of it. We have a new Chief Executive Officer for AARP.
mhm.
I don't want to end the conversation without giving you an opportunity, maybe a little early yet, to
Mhm.
give your thoughts on OVE, actually, and the new Chief Executive Officer.
Great. Thank you. Well, needless to say, we are both encouraged and inspired
Great.
by our new CEO. She's been crystal clear about
Mhm.
her appreciation for our amazing volunteers and has got to see some of that live in her state visits already. And so we know that we have a champion in her and are
Mhm.
looking forward to working with her in a really meaningful way as we continue to advance our work. So no need to do a conversion there. She came converted. So we are
All right,
super happy and
wonderful.
excited about having us join our work. And again, already a champion and a huge, huge fan. So looking forward to doing great work under her leadership.
Great. Well, again, thank you so very much. And to our audiences, the volunteers and staff, we thank you for listening to this podcast, for viewing it if you're viewing it. If not, you can listen to it on your favorite audio platform. So, again, we say thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you again, everyone.
Yes.